You ever sit somewhere minding your own business and suddenly realize everyone's looking at you like you don't belong there? Yeah. Now imagine that happening at 30,000 feet in a sealed metal tube with nowhere to go and nowhere to hide, and before you can even ask what's wrong, somebody's snapping handcuffs around your wrist while your kid watches. That's exactly how my morning started, and no, I'm not exaggerating, I wish I were, but yeah, that happened. I was on a routine flight, business class seat near the front. Suit-pressed briefcase, under the seat, legal papers spread across my lap like any other workday, because I wasn't heading to vacation or a golf trip. I was heading to court civil rights hearing first thing Monday, and I'd promised my daughter she could tag along since it was her school break, and she loved watching trials the way other kids love cartoons. She was by the window reading some mystery novel Feet, tucked up under her, totally relaxed, and I remember thinking, life felt quiet for once, like maybe the world had decided to give us one uneventful morning. Boarding went smooth, no drama, attendants, smiling people, settling in overhead bins, slamming shut engines, humming that familiar takeoff push back into your seat. And for the first 40 minutes, everything felt normal, just another flight, just another day, until one of the attendants started watching me. And I don't mean casually glancing the way crew scan cabins, I mean watching the kind of stare you feel before you see it. She checked the passenger list screen, looked at me, checked it, again, leaned over to a younger attendant and whispered something while nodding in my direction. And a minute later, the kid walks up, polite as can be, asks to see my boarding pass, so I hand it over, because I've got nothing to hide. He checks it, nods, hands it back, says, "Thank you, sir," and walks away. Should have ended there, right? Nope. Service starts drinks, going out row by row, coffee here, juice there, smiles all around, except when they reach me, they just pass, like I'm invisible. My daughter looks up, gives me that little confused face kids make when they notice something's off but don't know why, and I just shrug slightly, like don't worry about it. Maybe they forgot. I press the call button. Ding. We wait, and wait, and wait. I'm not counting at first, but after a while you start noticing time when you're being ignored on purpose. You know what I mean? 19 minutes later, she finally walks over, expression tight, voice flat. Yes, I say, water please, and whatever she'd like, nodding toward my kid. She tilts her head and asks, clear as day, "Are you sure you're in the right section?" Now that kind of question lands different depending on who you are and where you've been in life, and I've been around long enough to recognize it instantly, so I meet her eyes and say calmly, "Seat 3A. That's where I'm sitting." She sets a plastic cup on the armrest like she's dropping off evidence, doesn't give my daughter anything, doesn't apologize, just turns and walks off. Couple rows back, some guy in glasses stops typing and looks up like he heard it too. 20 minutes later, they come through with hot towels, passing them out like they're handing out candy on Halloween row, 1 row 2, skip right over us again. And now I know it's not a mistake now. I know I'm being singled out, and that's a feeling you never really get used to no matter how old you are or how many titles sit in your office. I stand up later to stretch my back near the galley, maybe 20 seconds tops. Long flights will lock your spine up if you sit too long, and she's watching again, whispering again, pointing slightly, and the kid she's talking to looks over at me, then back at the floor, like he doesn't want any part of whatever she's thinking. That silence right there, that was the last chance for someone to stop what came next. Instead, she picks up the intercom phone and calls the cockpit voice, suddenly official, measured calm, saying there's a suspicious passenger in business class, saying he's been intimidating crew, saying he's lingering in a threatening way. Those words sound heavy when you hear them out of context, threatening, suspicious, and the captain up front can't see me, doesn't know me, hasn't spoken to me. But protocol says you act when crew reports a threat, so he calls the air marshals. Meanwhile, I'm back in my seat reading case notes while my daughter naps against the window, completely unaware that someone just labeled her father dangerous. Then 2 men in plain clothes walk up and stop beside me, posture stiff, eyes scanning. One says, "Sir, stand up." I look up slowly, close my folder, ask what's going on, and he says, "I've been reported as a threat and need to put my hands behind my back." I tell him there's a mistake. He repeats the command. And here's something people don't understand until they've been in that moment. Arguing doesn't help. Resisting doesn't help. Raising your voice definitely doesn't help. So I comply. I stand, turn, place my wrists together. The cuffs click. That sound woke my daughter. She looks up, sees metal around my wrists. Voice small. "Dad." I turn my head and say, "It's okay, honey. Stay seated." It wasn't okay, not even close, and everyone around us knew it because the cabin went dead quiet. Keyboards stopped. Conversations froze, heads turned. One passenger lifts a phone. My daughter grabs her tablet with shaking hands and starts recording. The marshals walk me down the aisle past every row like I'm part of the in-flight entertainment. People staring, whispering, and near the front I see her arms crossed, watching, expression calm like she just solved a problem. They take me to the very back, cuff me to a seat frame, leave me there while the plane finishes landing procedures. Nobody explains anything, nobody asks questions, door opens, new agents board, they unclip me, recuff me, escort me off the plane while my daughter stands, frozen, clutching her tablet to her chest, watching me disappear. And that image right there stays with you longer than the cuffs ever will. They put me in a concrete room downstairs, metal table bolted to the floor, one wrist locked to a steel ring, and they leave me there. No rights read, no explanation, nothing. 2 hours and 50 minutes later, a man walks in, opens my briefcase, pulls out documents one by one, court files, federal ID authorization papers. Then he reaches the folder with my credentials, reads it, looks at me, looks back at the folder, and walks out without a word. 14 minutes later, 2 different agents come in and suddenly their tone's different, careful, respectful, calling me judge, asking what happened. So I tell them. Every detail, timeline, word sequence. Because facts matter and facts don't change just because somebody feels uncomfortable. They review the aircraft cameras and see everything, her watching me board, checking the manifest, skipping my service, making the call. They read the marshal reports which say I showed zero aggression. They talked to passengers, including a lawyer who documented the whole thing. Then they watch my daughter's video. Shaky edges, clear center. Calm voice, visible hands, no threat. They bring her in for questioning. Show her the footage, ask what threatening behavior she saw. Silence. She finally says, "He didn't look like he belonged." That sentence right there carried more weight than anything else because it told the truth she didn't mean to admit. Within a week, she was fired, credentials revoked, investigation opened. Turns out there'd been complaints about her before, multiple, all ignored. A lawsuit followed. Internal emails surfaced showing supervisors brushing off earlier reports because they didn't want paperwork. The airline settled for millions before trial and agreed to reforms. Me, I went back to work. Didn't do interviews, didn't chase headlines, just kept doing my job and quietly used part of that settlement to fund legal help for travelers who face discrimination and can't afford attorneys. But here's what still sits with me. It wasn't the cuffs, it wasn't the money, it wasn't even the apology. It was how fast everything escalated, from a look to a whisper, to a phone call, to handcuffs, all because somebody decided I didn't belong before they knew a single thing about me. So let me ask you something honestly. Do you think what happened to her afterward was justice, or was it too much? And have you ever seen someone judged like that in real life, maybe at work, maybe at school, maybe in public, and did you step in or stay quiet? Tell me down in the comments, because these conversations matter more than people think. And sometimes the only way things change is when regular people decide they're not going to look away anymore.